Hey everybody, this is GGB Coles Peppers. We're going to be talking about the New Orleans Saints playing the Baltimore Ravens in the preseason. Let's get straight into this, winners and losers. Let's start with the one winner, I think, at quarterback, and it's Tyler Huntley. Tyler Huntley won this game. He single-handedly won the game, technically speaking, but he won the game at the quarterback position. Only two QBs played for the Baltimore Ravens, and honestly, he outshined Trace McSorley. Now, to be fair, Tyler Huntley was also playing against third and fourth string defenses, while Trace McSorley was mainly playing against the number 1 and number 2 defense for the Saints. And we all know the Saints have a phenomenal defense year in, year out. So I don't blame Trace McSorley too much for that. But Tyler Huntley shined. He made some tough throws. He ran the ball very effectively. And I mean, if I'm going to be honest, this might be the quarterback you want backing up Lamar Jackson. He looked really competent running the ball. And honestly, he looked like a more mobile player. And honestly, if Lamar Jackson goes down with an injury, you want someone who's super mobile. And Trace McSorley is very mobile. I think most Penn State fans know that. But it's just like you need a really, really mobile quarterback. And that's what Tyler Huntley showed you. He showed his ability to be extremely mobile and just be able to run the ball. And that's kind of the offense they run, so it would make sense if Tyler Huntley ends up being the backup quarterback, especially if he shows in the other preseason games what he showed today. Now let's go to the rushing game. Honestly, there's only one winner, in my opinion, in the running game for both teams, and it's Tony Jones Jr. Tony Jones Jr., if you guys go back, you can watch my Saints 53-man roster prediction. I didn't have him on the 53-man roster. That has changed. It has 100% changed. Now, to be fair, he did fumble the ball, but so did Latavius Murray and so did Devonta Freeman. There's only 3 running backs that saw the field, which is bad news for Dwayne Washington and Stevie Scott. That means the Saints don't care enough to see them make the field, and they're going to be on my loser list later, so we'll talk more about them later. But Tony Jones Jr. went off. He got 7 carries, 82 yards, 11.7 yards per carry, and had a touchdown. If we're going to talk about who should make this team, Tony Jones Jr. showed that he probably should make this roster. And if Dwayne Washington's not, in my opinion, Tony Jones Jr. at this point is he's the third best running back on this roster. Now, it might sound like an insult, but this roster already contains Alvin Kamara and Latavius Murray. So, Tony Jones Jr., in my opinion, looked better than Devonta Freeman today. He really did. He read the holes extremely well. He knew when to bounce outside and know when to run up the middle. He was perfect. In my opinion, outside of the fumble, I guess technically speaking, it's not perfect, but he looked about as good as I expected him to. I could have hoped for him to look today, and I really liked what he showed. Okay, let's go to the offense, and there's a couple receivers I'd like to point out. Number one, it's a tight end named Juwan Johnson. Now, Juwan Johnson was a player I thought I really liked him. I had him as my number 3 tight end on my Saints 53-man roster predictions. But then, he was listed as 4th string tight end. Technically he's on the 4th team, right? So the number 1 tight end was listed Adam Troutman, number 2 tight end was listed Nick Manette, and the number 3 was Ethan Wolf and Garrett Griffin. So I thought, dang, that's not good news. That's not good news for Juwan Johnson. Then Juwan Johnson went out there, and he only got it targeted twice, but he had 2 catches for 71 yards, right? He was great, and he looked like, I understand it's a comparison some people make that I think goes a little bit too far, but he looked a little bit like Darren Waller out there today. He was a mismatch. He looked like a receiver playing tight end, and no one knew how to match up with him. The linebackers couldn't keep up with him, and safeties he was too big for. So Juwan Johnson is a matchup nightmare, and I think he honestly, he could be a big part of this offense moving forward. He was a winner today, in my opinion. He was a loser at the beginning of the day, winner at the end of the day. Great game by Juwan Johnson. Only one other tight end caught a pass, and it was Garrett Griffin for 3 yards. So, obviously, showing what he's capable of. And then the number 2 receiver I had winning today was Lil Jordan Humphrey. Lil Jordan Humphrey was a player I thought he would be the number 6 wide receiver on this team, right? Behind Marquez Callaway, Chris Hogan, Deontay Harris, Traquan Smith, Ty Montgomery, Chris Hogan. So I thought he was going to be behind all those guys. I thought he was going to be on the verge of a roster spot, right? Lil Jordan Humphrey went out there, and he was targeted 5 times, caught 3 of them for 29 yards and a touchdown. Lil Jordan Humphrey looked good. Now, he had the 1 drop, and honestly, you can argue that on the pick that he probably should have tried more to get the catch. Doesn't matter. Lil Jordan Humphrey proved, honestly, when the first team was on the field, he was the number 2 option. He was. Now, I understand Traquan Smith wasn't available. Deontay Harris didn't play in this game. Again, Michael Thomas is out. We all know this. But if we're talking about all that, I expected Ty Montgomery and Chris Hogan to be the options they go to. But that's just not the case. Lil Jordan Humphrey was the option they went to when Marquez Callaway wasn't open. And that's a huge sign for Lil Jordan Humphrey. Now, the Baltimore receiving crew, Josh Oliver is a player I really thought won this game. We all know that Baltimore probably has their starting tight end in Mark Andrews. I feel like everyone understands that. But I think Josh Oliver's fighting for a depth role. I mean, Nick Boyle is, again, probably their tight end, and he serves a multiple purpose. And you could put him at fullback if Patrick Ricard gets hurt. But Josh Oliver could be fighting for that tight end 3 spot, and if he is, then let's be honest, what he did today was pretty impressive. 4 catches, 22 yards. He didn't fumble the ball, unlike other people we know. I thought he looked good. I thought he did well, considering he's fighting for that tight end 3 spot. I think he was a winner today, in my mind. And then, on the defensive side of things, I gotta highlight two Saints defenders real quick. I just have to mention Zach Bond. Zach Bond was a player a lot, and I mean a lot of Saints fans were hating on early on in the selection when he didn't automatically he wasn't automatically a difference maker on the Saints defense last year. But a lot of people forget, again, like he was transferring really from where he mainly rushed the passer in Wisconsin. They played a very different defense than the NFL does at Wisconsin, to an NFL defense, and he seems to have transitioned perfectly. He ended up having 5 total tackles, 3 solo tackles, and then 1 tackle for loss and 1 pass deflected. I mean, when Zach Bond was on the field, he was everywhere. You could not run the ball and he wasn't there. You could not throw the ball and he wasn't rushing you. I mean, he was honestly perfect today. I could not ask for much more out of Zach Bond. And then my second other player to point out, it's Paulson Adebo. Paulson Adebo, in my opinion, had a phenomenal game. He ended up only having 4 total tackles and 4 solo tackles. But let's be honest, Paulson Adebo was a guy many people were like, you could see what the Baltimore were thinking early. They were trying to pick on him. And you know what Paulson Adebo did? He absolutely shut down his man. And honestly, I would not go into the season absolutely terrified if Paulson Adebo was my starter. Now, obviously, I would love to have C.J. Henderson or some other player, but Paulson Adebo right now would be the starter, and honestly, I wouldn't be mad at that. Paulson Adebo looked phenomenal today, and I think he could play, and we wouldn't suck. And we just need a player that doesn't suck to get this job done. But let's go to some losers of the day. Loser number 1, let's just go with the Saints, because honestly I don't know too much about the Baltimore Ravens. But loser number 1, it's got to be Trevor Siemian. Trevor Siemian was a guy that was the number 4 quarterback on the Saints roster. Most people knew that he wasn't going to make the roster, but you thought he would have gotten some playing time today. He ended up getting no playing time whatsoever. I found that really interesting. It just means that he's going to be one of the first cuts from this team, and he is gone from New Orleans. And I just really think it's a shame for him because he never got to show off his skill set as a passer for another team that's needy of a quarterback or a backup quarterback. Like, let's say the Packers need a backup quarterback. Actually, that's not true. Who needs a backup quarterback? The Colts need someone there. He could have had a tryout for another team, but the fact is the Saints didn't let him happen, and I feel that really sucks. Kind of sucks for Trevor Siemian. The other losers of the day, it has to be Stevie Scott and Dwayne Washington. They didn't even get to try to play today, which is really kind of interesting considering I expected 5 of the 6 running backs to play, and really, we all know that Latavius Murray has that number 2 spot locked up. So I thought the battle was going to be for number 3 and number 4 between Devonta Freeman, Tony Jones Jr., Dwayne Washington, and Stevie Scott. Apparently, it seems like the Saints have their mind made up about that. And then I think the big loser would have to be Shai Tuttle. Shai Tuttle is a player that a lot of Saints fans were expecting to start this year, be our one player in the middle that can support us when David Onyemata's out, especially considering Malcolm Roach was on and off the roster last year, and Christian Ringo, you can say the same thing, and just Jalen Dalton wasn't there most of the time. You were hoping that he would be the number one defensive tackle, and he was on the number 4 or number 3 on the depth chart. Not like the defensive tackle number 3, but I mean third team. So obviously the Saints think either he needs to be pushed a little bit more or he's just not all that great. So Shai Tuttle has got to be the big loser today. But hey everybody, this is GGB Ghost Peppers. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. But saying adios amigos.